Back in 2013, Ralph was pretty new here, and we had an opportunity to travel to New York to perform the Mozart Requiem in Carnegie Hall. And I told Ralph about it because we needed to raise a little money. And he said, sure, I'll help you out as long as I can go and sing in the choir. And I said, wow, okay, let's do it. So he did, and we performed the Mozart Requiem here with the Redlands Symphony Orchestra, and Ralph sang along. And then we traveled to New York, and I got to conduct it at Carnegie Hall, and he sang in the choir, and we had a wonderful time. And to see him up there really glowing, it was just so inspiring.
Not only was I surprised that he was a musician, but that he was really good. I mean, when you sit down and listen to Ralph play the piano, it's at the highest level too. So here is an especially talented person. Actually, I first learned that he was a musician because he was a member of a choir. Actually, he told me once that he was actually paid for singing in this choir. So he can claim to be a professional musician. When I played in the Redlands Symphony, I knew when the president was there. I looked for him at the concert halls, and and he always would give me a little thumbs up when our eyes met. I'm on stage, Ralph is in his seat, and it brought me great comfort and joy to connect with Ralph visually from stage to seat. He's a great supporter of the arts.
He's a very good baritone. He can read music really well. He is a fine pianist, and he's actually been taking organ lessons from one of our graduate students, Kuncl Guitars. And he's been doing that for a few years now, and improved a lot. And he doesn't know this, but every once in a while I would need a break, and I would walk over and into the chapel, and sometimes I just want to walk around, and there were a few times that Ralph would be taking a lesson from Connor, and I would just sit and listen for a little while. And sit up in the balcony. Ralph didn't know. He would be mortified if he knew I was doing that. But it was just so much fun to watch him learn from one of our students and his commitment to that. And he would ask to practice in the chapel and schedule a time in there so he could practice for his lessons. You know, he's truly a lifelong learner.
I don't really know how that happened. I think he actually went through Dr. Andrews, my choral director. She stopped me in the hallway one day and said, hey, Dr. Kuncl wants to take organ lessons from you. Email him and tell him how much you charge. And first off, my first thought was, well, I'm not going to charge Dr. Kuncl. So I emailed him that, and he said, no, you have to charge me. I'm any other student. What's your rate? So we arranged for a time, and I told him, well, you have to buy organ shoes. You have to have you need the right materials to come. And he was all over that. So he got his organ shoes. He bought the music. He wanted to learn one specific piece, the Albinoni Adagio for strings, which I thought was a really interesting choice and a really great choice for the organ, because the whole point of the piece is that it's very lush and really plays with the texture of the music. And the organ is really all about playing with the texture of the instrument.
I've always really loved the chapel.
Oh, it's a great place. It's my favorite place, because it was the first building I ever went inside of in University of Redlands. I was here as a candidate in May 2012. Not a soul was on campus. May term was over. No students, no faculty, no staff. But for some reason, the only building left open on campus was this. So I walked into a darkened chamber, flipped on a switch, walked up to the stage in front of that great stained glass window, and I felt, oh, this is home. And it's been my favorite place ever since. Of course, it's all about music because the School of Music is right next door. And everyone knows I'm the big fan of music here. So this is my place.
And I think with any good leader like Ralph, they're not thinking so much about the present and the impact they might have in the present, but what is their long-term impact, and how can they help people generations from now?
Well, I think that Dr. Kuncl's experience, both as a scientist and as a musician, shape Redlands just in the way that nobody is afraid to venture out of their area of expertise. I think that's a culture that is very important at Redlands, that nobody feels excluded from any discipline just because that's not their major. We often have students who aren't music majors in ensembles, in our music classes. Actually, I would say that probably about a third of the students in chapel singers, for example, aren't music majors. They're just there because they love to make music and they're good at it too. And I think that's a culture that Redlands really does foster, that you don't have to be an expert at your discipline to participate in the discipline.
I think Ralph's greatest impact on the School of Music is that he has really fostered a community of artists. He believes in our mission, he believes in what we do, he believes in the students and the faculty, and he's challenged us to become better. He's challenged us to reach out into the community. He's challenged us to think about our curriculum. He's challenged us to think about long-term vision, and he's empowered us with the ability to make those decisions and supported us 100% to create a vision for the 21st century musician and how they can then leave this place to make our world better.